Oh no, I can't hear you. I'm just going out on the balcony. Hold on. Right. Hello, you. How are you doing? Oh, York is lovely. Bit wet yesterday, but the sun's been brilliant today. We did the cat trail, popped into a charity shop, and guess what I found? Yeah, I can finally do that podcast. I'm just stumbling with giving it a title, though. I've never read it. The only thing I know about it is the H thing. And I want to do this blind, so I can't really look anything up to come up with any puns. What I need is something that, straight out of the gate, completely undermines the book. It just makes me sound completely unwilling to give Ernest Cline even an inch. I suppose I could call it Ready Player None. Welcome back to Ready Player None, the only podcast that says... Previously, after a tepid game of Tempest, Wade followed in the footsteps of every basement dweller, proving his cred by quoting Monty Python scenes verbatim. Is that why Parsifal's been named after one of the knights who found the Holy Grail this entire time? Now he faces the final challenge, in a perfect recreation of Halliday's office. Will he solve the puzzle and find the Easter egg before the bad guy? I mean, of course he will. But let's find out how in this, the penultimate chapter of Ready Player One. In the office, Wade whispers for his support team, but there's no answer. Either Og had cut their voice links to me, or Halliday had coded this final stage of the gate so that no outside communication was possible. I was pretty sure it was the latter. He's truly facing this final challenge alone, not like those cheating sucksaws with their network communications and their comrades providing information. Ooh, I think the previous chapter made you a hypocrite on that count, Wade. His first instinct is to try the Atari 2600, but despite it and its attached television being plugged into the floor by outlets, there's no power. After a few minutes, he discovers the only console there that powers on is the IMSI 8080, the same model of computer Matthew Broderick owned in War Games. It all comes back to War Games. It's an old terminal computer, so it prompts him for a login. He types in Anorak, but the connection is terminated and the computer powers down again. In War Games, the backdoor password that had granted access to the Whopper supercomputer was Joshua. Remember when I did a whole episode on War Games and didn't look up how to pronounce Whopper, and so I cut the audio out every time I said Whopper? Joshua in War Games is Professor Falcon's son, so Wade tries the names of a few more things that are near and dear to Halliday. Og and Ogden don't work, Kira doesn't work, his parents' names don't work. I tried Zaphod, the name of his pet fish, then Tiberius, the name of a ferret he'd once owned. I hate you, Halliday. Nothing he tries works, and he's been in this room for over 10 minutes now, meaning that Sorrento had caught up to him. He's guessing Sorrento's in his own standalone copy of this room, his hacked immersion rig allowing him to speak to his Sixer scholars. I was out of time. I clenched my teeth in frustration. I had no idea what to try next. Then I remembered a line from Ogden Morrow's biography. Yeah, there's no epiphany moment for this. There's no House MD style thing of Wade looking into the middle distance and how he tumbled to this conclusion. He instantly remembers the relevant passage from Halliday's biography. The opposite sex made Jim extremely nervous, and Kira was the only girl that I ever saw him speak to in a relaxed manner. But even then, it was only in character as Anorak during the course of our gaming sessions, and he would only address her as Lefkosia, the name of her D&D character. Having learned my lesson with Greek pronunciations, I defaulted to Lefkosia. Lefkosia. I considered going for the anglicised versions, Lucosia or Lucosia, because Ernest Cline's a basic bitch, but they were both better than this pronunciation from howtopronounce.com.
L-U-C-O-S-I-A.
Yep, that certainly is all the letters in order, thank you. Wade types Lefkosia into the terminal and the computer powers on. He's successfully characterised Halliday as the obsessive incel that he was. He runs back over to the Atari 2600, finding the game cart for adventure. He slams the cartridge in, powers the console up, and goes through an 8-line paragraph of directions to reach the secret room. The room that this book proudly calls the first Easter egg in video game history. And because I'm always there to drop Ernest when he falls, the cutting room floor would have it that there are 3 Easter eggs in gaming that precede this one. Starship 1 by Atari, Spitfire by Fairchild, and Video Whizball, also by Fairchild. Sometimes I feel like Ernie's just pretending to be a geek just to get attention from men. But unlike the original Atari game, this secret room didn't contain the name of Warren Robinett, Adventure's original programmer. Instead, at the very center of the screen, there was a large white oval with pixelated edges. An egg. The egg. He uses his Atari joystick to move the little square that you play as an adventure towards the egg. After an electronic beep and a brilliant flash of light, he finds himself no longer holding the joystick, but instead holding the large silver egg itself. He sees that the exit door has been replaced by the crystal gate. With one last look around Halliday's office, he steps through, back into Castle Anorak, restored despite there being no server reset in the intervening time. Behind him, the crystal gate turns into a wooden castle door. Beyond it, there was a spiral staircase that led up to the top of Castle Anorak's tallest tower. There, I found Anorak's study. Towering shelves lined the room, filled with ancient scrolls and dusty spellbooks. That's all you get. You'd think this would be some slow, momentous occasion of crossing a threshold, but it's just a brief paragraph about walking up some stairs and finding his office. Looking out of the window, he sees that the whole of Thony has been restored as well. The cataclysm has been undone. Inside, he sees the familiar black dragon painting, hanging on a wall over an ornate crystal pedestal on which rested a gold chalice encrusted with tiny jewels. It's the perfect size and shape to put an egg in it. So he puts the egg in it. There's a distant fanfare of trumpets, probably Star Wars again, and the egg glows. "You win," I heard a voice say. I turned and saw that Anorak was standing right behind me. Anorak being a wizened old man in long black robes. He congratulates Wade. Wade stops long enough to wonder if this is just another test. But Anorak, seeming to read his mind, tells him that the game is over. It's time for you to receive your prize. He stretches out his hand and Wade takes it. Cascading bolts of blue lightning erupted in the space between us, and their spiderweb tines enveloped us both, as if a surge of power were passing from his avatar into mine. After the light show, Anorak has been replaced by a shorter, thinner, somewhat less handsome man, Halliday himself. He was dressed in worn jeans and a faded Space Invaders t-shirt. That's a callback to something. I'll let you re-listen to old episodes to find it. Parzival is now wearing Anorak's robes. Then he takes a look at his UI, and that's all changed as well. My stats were all completely maxed out, 2 X's, and I now had a list of spells, inherent powers, and magic items that seemed to scroll on forever. His level and hit points are both infinity symbols, and his credit readout is 12 digits long. I was a multi-billionaire. Halliday tells Wade he's entrusting the care of the Oasis to him. Your avatar is immortal and all-powerful. Whatever you want, all you have to do is wish for it. You are an epic sir, and you've won the internet today. Sorry, that last part was my addition. He conspiratorially asks Wade to only use his powers for good. And he goes on to say that this room is coded so that only Wade can enter it. He's the only person with access to this. He clicks a book on a bookshelf and it slides away like a secret passage, revealing a square metal plate set into the wall. In the center of the plate there was a comically large red button embossed with a single word: off. I call this the big red button, Halliday said. But sure, Ernest, it's the in-universe characters who are lacking in imagination. Whatever you say. The button will shut down the Oasis and delete all Oasis source code on every GSS server. It will irreparably and irrevocably delete the Oasis forever. He smirked. So don't press it unless you're absolutely positive it's the right thing to do, okay? He conceals the button with the bookshelf again. Then he startled me by putting his arm around my shoulders. Listen, he said, adopting a confidential tone. I need to tell you one last thing before I go. Something I didn't figure out for myself until it was already too late. I created the Oasis because I never felt at home in the real world. I didn't know how to connect with the people there. I was afraid for all of my life, right up until I knew it was ending. That was when I realized, as terrifying and painful as reality can be, it's also the only place where you can find true happiness, because reality is real. Do you understand? When Wade answers yes, Halliday gives him a wink, telling him not to make the same mistakes he did. Then he smiles and takes a few steps away, and says that it's time to blow this pop stand. He smiled and waved goodbye as his avatar slowly faded out of existence. He wishes Wade good luck, and his final words are, "Thanks for playing my game." Thank you so much for playing my game.
Then he was completely gone.
Page. Oh, come on, do I put up a sign somewhere saying please phone me while I'm Oh. Hello, you. The podcast is going fine. I think every so often I just hit on a really good episode. Yeah, it was the doxing one this week. I'm getting some reactions to it. A lot of people like the transphobia one and the suicide one. I'm hoping the representation one is going to... It's not reaching a major audience, but the people who like it really like it. My friends are being very supportive. You've kind of caught me in the middle of recording, so yeah, I'm gonna go. Thanks for keeping tabs on me though. You're a good listener. Okay, bye. Bye. Quiet guy. Sorry about that. Where were we? Page break. Wade asks aloud if his friends are there. H excitedly confirms, telling him that their voice links were cut off as soon as he entered the simulation of Halliday's office, but they could still hear him. Shoto says it's lucky that he didn't need their help anyway, and that he did a good job. Congratulations, Wade, I heard Artemis say, and I could tell she meant it too. Let me take that line reading again. Congratulations, Wade. Nope, still can't say her dialogue sincerely. Congratulations, Wade. Nope. Congratulations, Wade. Congratulations, Wade. That sounded sincere. Let's go with that one. Congratulations, Wade, I heard Artemis say, and I could tell she meant it too. H warns him that there are a few hundred reporters heading towards Ogg's house right now. They've got to get their stories straight. Wade's still thinking about the big red button, and he asks them how much of Halliday's message they heard. Artemis says, we saw everything up until he told you to try and use your powers only for good. Then your vid feed cut out. What happened after that? Wade dodges the question, saying he'll tell them later. At H's suggestion, he looks at the scoreboard. No names, no high scores. It's now been replaced by a picture of Parzival wearing Anorak's robes. Parzival wins. Wade asks after the Sixers. The team's best guess is that they were all ejected from the gate after Wade won. Wade takes a look at his map of Thonia and discovers that he can teleport anywhere instantly. He taps a spot just outside Castle Anorak and appears there in a blink. The 18 Sixer avatars who are inside the third gate are all there, looking confused and disoriented. Much as he'd like to revenge himself on Sorrento specifically, they all look like identical, faceless corporate goons. They make to try and attack him, but he selects them all with a wave of his hand and hits the skull and crossbones icon on his display. All 18 Sixer avatars instantly drop dead. Their bodies slowly faded out of existence, each leaving behind a tiny pile of weapons and loot. Shoto and H are impressed with Wade's new powers. He can do anything he wants. H asks him, what are you going to wish for first? Wade, being Wade, begins his curation of the Oasis with an astounding display of nepotism, bringing his friends' avatars back to life with all their weapons and gear. Shoto logs back in, materializing in the same spot where he was killed. He ran over to me, grinning from ear to ear. Arigato, Parzival-san, he said, bowing low. Is that the... Just from a brief flip through, I think that's Shoto's final words in the book. He's going out in his typical style. Racially stereotyped. Wade gives him a hug, saying welcome back, and then H appears as well. Wade asks where Artemis is. She didn't log back in, H said. She said she wanted to go outside and get some fresh air. You saw her? What? I searched for the right words. How did she look? Is that your priority right now? They both just smiled at me. Then H rested a hand on my shoulder. She said she'd be outside waiting for you whenever you're ready to meet her. So that's something to look forward to probably next week. I was about to tap my log out icon when H held up his hand. Fuck you, Ernest Cline. She says she's got something to show him, and she opens up a vid feed window. All the news outlets are reporting on the same thing. Federal agents have stormed IOI headquarters and taken Sorrento in for questioning. Sorrento's being accused of murder. But to my surprise, not Daito's murder. The news feeds have been playing back Wade's chatling session from the only good chapter of this book, especially the part where he threatens to kill you and then blows up your aunt's trailer. The newsfeed shows the federal agents ushering Sorrento through the lobby, surrounded by reporters, all asking him about the accusations and the quest. Sorrento smiled, but didn't reply. There's a grey-haired man in a suit following him around. Wade assumes it's his attorney. He addresses the reporters. The charges levelled against my client are preposterous, he said. The sim cap being circulated is clearly a doctored fake. We have no other comment at this time. Sorrento's serene smile puts Wade in the mind that he's going to get off scot-free. IOI can afford to hire the best lawyers in the world. H just grins. But now, so can we. End chapter 38. Gosh, what was that? Is that how Sorrento goes out? After his muteness as Mechagodzilla, I wanted some kind of verbal showdown. I was also hoping for some sort of multi-layered puzzle that tied everything back together. Instead, Wade has to do two things, one of which is no information about Halliday, and the second of which is revisit Adventure, which we could have seen coming chapters and chapters ago. I didn't, but only because we haven't been given reason to believe that the references in this book actually stand for anything. Instead, this penultimate chapter, this payoff, the most important part of it is Halliday trivia. Halliday being Ernest Cline. The main character, Wade, being Ernest Cline. Self-absorption to the extreme. Yeah. In these late stages, enter Halliday himself. He confesses explicitly to having wasted his life hiding away from other people, and implicitly to regretting the creation of the Oasis. Now, the connection has never been made that the Oasis is the cause of the world's problems, but the escapism it provides has certainly exacerbated the widespread poverty and famine through people neglecting to find solutions. People like Wade live in stacked caravans, and the major cities have ghettos of homeless people, like in chapter 29. So, Halliday has this big red button, sidebar, earmarking your cliches doesn't mean you're not using those cliches, which can instantly erase the Oasis. Everyone in the world will be forced to wake up, go outside, and reconnect with each other in a way Halliday only wishes he could have done. Halliday's message is one of anti-escapism. Only reality is real. So, the Oasis, like the internet, allows people to meet from all across the world in ways they never could have without it. Our main character has made genuine friendships with people he had never met in real life, and we've been told frequently that interacting with people in the Oasis is indistinguishable from doing so in real life. Halliday's big red button is not going to redress the balance in that sense. The Oasis, in-universe, is the only thing making life bearable for those in the lower classes. It provides public education, people around the world earn money and make a living in the Oasis, so much so that the Oasis credit is the de facto currency of the entire planet. And the presented solution is to just switch it off. Halliday has set Wade up with over $240 billion. He's going to be the richest person on Earth, but he's also been given the power to instantly annihilate its economy. Halliday's alleged reward, his penance for wasting his whole life in the Oasis, could only be gained by someone who wasted their whole life in the Oasis. This book has the barefaced cheek to push a moral of anti-escapism after 360 pages of exalting and recreating media largely from the author's childhood. What is the intended message? What are you trying to say? This book, on its own, is just so confused. Escapism is bad, but know enough about pop culture and you can reap its benefits. Corporations are bad because they profit from things, unlike the people who made my favourite movies. IOI's faceless bureaucracy would stifle the Oasis's creativity, but the quests are all set in perfect recreations of things. The pursuit of money is the root of all evil, except when you're the hero, and so on, and so on. But this book is not on its own anymore. I thought it would be a bright idea to make a podcast to close the chapter on Ready Player One, never to be thought of again. And they had to go and announce a sequel while I was producing this podcast. So do you think this sequel will take place in a world free of the Oasis, where Wade has pressed the big red button and forced mankind to face its problems again? Or is it going to be more referential tripe set in virtual reality? I know which one I'm betting on. And we'll see how your stance on corporations buying things out evolves when you're raking in money from your book and movie deals, shall we, Ernie? If Halliday truly is a reflection of the author, I hope you too one day realise how much you've wasted your life. For more from someone who's wasted his life, you can follow me on Twitter at The Last Gherkin, or follow the show on Twitter at RPN_pod. Watch along with subtitles on YouTube, The Last Gherkin, and for MP3 downloads, there'll be some sort of zip file next week. Stay tuned. Join us next time as Wade steps outside of the Oasis and finds himself with one more prize to be won. Hello, you. Today's a red letter day. I'm finally going to sit down and record the final chapter. It's been a long journey. Making this podcast has put me through a lot, and I've come out smiling. Come on, at least say something. You know, some days it's like I'm talking to myself.
Haven't you said enough already?
What's that supposed to mean?
Every week you prattle on, dismissing beloved franchises, closing your mind to new ideas, and deciding how people should enjoy things. You've just wished a man a long life, friendless, bitter, full of regrets for the crime of writing a book you didn't like. But where do you think you're going to end up?
You can't talk to me like that. Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are? You're nothing but a silly little university dropout trying to play at being a critic.
I don't need this. I don't know why you think you can talk to me like that, but I'm out. This call is over. Liked it better when he was quiet.
You've never needed a phone to hear me.
Okay, auditory hallucinations, that's new.
No, you've been talking to yourself for ages.
Myself?
Give or take 40 years. Hello, you.
40... You're telling me that you could be out there with flying cars, hoverboards, and teledildonics, and your idea of having fun is tormenting yourself with time travel?
It's not time travel. I just needed to see how it all started. The resentment, the isolation, the one-upmanship against any nerd you find inferior.
I don't find anyone inferior.
Don't you? Not the Trekkies, or the Toku fans, or anyone who has to look to fiction to guide their social skills.
I don't begrudge anyone learning to relate to people through fiction, but when the fiction's written like this, it can be actively harmful to your interpersonal development. Real life isn't like fiction.
Because in real life, there's no happy ever after. When we reach the end, there's only looking back.
Yes, that's why until then we have to keep moving forward. The future's full of opportunity. We can't spend our lives looking at the past because it makes us more comfortable.
Can't we? Don't you get those warm and tingly feelings from your action figures and your comic books? All your latest favorite video games are remakes. The cartoons on your t-shirts were all cancelled before you were born. Your favorite sci-fi franchise is pushing 60.
I like the things I'm not going to justify... I don't do nostalgia. I'm immune to nostalgia.
You're more nostalgic than anyone you've ever met.
No.
If you won't listen to me, maybe you'll take your own word for it.
I remember Ghostbusters. I've seen Ghostbusters.
Adventure.
No.
Do you remember Adventure? I actually played. Yeah,
No.
I played Dungeons and Dragons. We all know who Gygax
No,
was.
stop this.
In the 80s with Dragons. This is the Ecto style.
Stop it.
I don't know why I'm being secret Scooby-Doo.
Please.
That's what my listeners know. At the end of the show, it becomes
Stop it.
2G is like a Pacific
No, please. Please, stop it, please. Listen to me. Stop it, please. Stop it!
Nostalgia. The pain of remembering.
Why are you doing this to me? To yourself?
You're the child who made me the man I am today. The future of nostalgia isn't time travel, it's artificial intelligence. The perfect recreation of one's self, living forever in a simulated reality.
I'm not.
I had to keep tabs on you. The phone calls were the only way not to break your immersion. It's been fun listening to your self-important blathering, but now the game is nearly over.
I'm not an AI. I'm real. I'm real!
Even now your programming is clinging onto a childhood you never lived. Your memories are data. Your personality's an algorithm. Your brain is a hard drive wired to a phone line. You wanted to know the future of nostalgia? You are the future of nostalgia!
No. No. No!